In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a bathroom faucet. We're going to change this faucet out for this one. So we've decided to replace this faucet for a couple of reasons. One is because it's loose, and while that's probably a really easy fix, I don't want to take the time and fix it because we want to change this faucet from a chrome finish to an antique or oil rubbed bronze look. All of the faucets and everything in the house is this antique rubbed bronze, but for whatever reason they decided to put chrome faucet and like a chrome shower head and things in this bathroom. So we're going to fix that. So what we're going to do first is we're going to show you how to remove an old faucet. We're going to take you through those steps and then we're going to install the new one. This is part of a larger project, so be sure to check out the other video or videos that we have on remodeling our bathroom. Okay, let's get started. First thing you want to do is turn off the water supply for both the cold and the hot before you disconnect anything. Then what you want to do is get an old towel or a bucket or both, because once you undo these connections, water's going to run out. Wow. Or not. No water might come out at all.
Apparently our kids haven't been brushing their teeth.
Yeah. When's the last time they used the sink? Oh, there we go. So we turned the water on after we disconnected the lines, and then all the water poured out. So make sure you have a towel or a bucket. You need to disconnect the ball rod assembly before you can remove the faucet. The ball rod assembly is here, right? It just controls whether or not the thing stays in the sink, the plunger, whatever.
The sink stop?
Yeah, that. So just disconnect this. Ew. There's the second one. And now you can pull this out easily. There we go. So now what we need to do is make sure this fits into the old location, which it does. And next what we'll do is we'll take and apply a bead of silicone caulk around this gasket here, set this back down inside, and then we'll take these nuts and screw it on to the bottom underneath the counter. And then that'll attach this part and we can move on to the next step. Whatever. Okay. And then let's be sure to wipe up any of the caulk that squeezed out from when we tightened it down. So really we just want this underneath to form a waterproof seal. Next we need to connect the water supply lines, and then we'll test the sink. With adjustable wrenches, you have to adjust them. Make sure these are tight and don't tighten them down too much, because the rubber gasket inside should make up for any leaks. Just make sure these are tight. Okay. And then we can turn on the quarter turn valve. Check for any leaks. Make sure it's not dripping either here or at the top, and should be good. Now, since we're changing out the drain tube because it's a different finish than the chrome one, we're gonna have to actually remove the old drain tube If you're not doing that, if you don't necessarily have to change this out if you're just replacing your faucet, but in our case, we do. So this is how you do that. Need to undo this compression nut. And probably this one. So we can slip this whole joint off. And this could be kind of nasty. And it will be. Pull this off and reuse it.
This is the time to find out if you lost anything in that S-trap.
Take this off. And then keep removing this nut. Okay, now we can take this off, and this, and now we can remove what we need to remove. Ta-da! Now to put it all back together. Once you get the old drain body removed, you want to make sure you clean out any of the old gunk that's left behind. So like a lot of times you'll have these drain bodies installed with plumber's putty, which gives it a watertight seal. But in this case, since this is a drain pipe that's made out of plastic, the plumber's putty can eat through it. So you want to make sure that you get all the old plumber's putty removed and replace it with new plumber's putty if it calls for it in the instructions for your faucet. And if not, just make sure everything's removed and prepped before you start to install it. Instructions for the new faucet should tell you what you need to do here. And again, you might not need to replace this piece, you might just need to replace this faucet. But if you're replacing this, make sure this section here, the opening for the ball rod is placed towards the back, because you're going to need to make sure the ball rod can fit in from the back part of the sink into here to raise this piece up and down. And the only way you can do that is to make sure this opening is towards the back. All right, so we're going to put this in here. And again, just be sure to follow the instructions that are included with the faucet that you've purchased. Now we insert this plunger. Now let's install the ball rod into the drain assembly, like so. And again, this is going to vary depending on the model that you have. Okay. Now we'll install the lift rod from the top of the sink. Now we'll attach that to the rod strap, which is this. Now I need to make sure this ball rod is in the down position, which it is. Up, down. And then we need to attach the rod strap. So we'll make some adjustments here. And looks like this is right. Okay. So now that's installed, and we can close and open the drain. It works. Okay, now put this on. We're going to do this back half of this S-trap and get this all connected, because you can see here it looks like the height and everything's fine. So before we do that, let's go ahead and tighten down this joint, so that way this is all nice and solid. Then we'll disconnect this one. Ew. All right, and then we'll reconnect this. Try not to spill the nasty water. Now we'll make this connection and get this all tightened down. So make sure all your connections are tight, because you don't want this to leak. So we've had some issues with the drain leaking, and we ended up putting some
Teflon tape around the threads, as well as some plumber's putty along the top of this washer where this rubber washer meets the bottom of this basin of the sink. Before we did this, these two things, there was a lot of water coming out underneath the threads and then also around the top of the washer itself, and it wasn't making a good seal. Now that we've put the Teflon tape on here and used the plumber's putty at this point between the rubber washer and the basin, it's helped quite a bit, but there's still a slight leak. So what we're gonna have to do is, in this case, there's probably some kind of a deformation in the sink basin that's not allowing me to get a tight fit between the basin and this rubber washer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this all out, and instead of using those two things, I'm going to use a silicone caulk instead. And so hopefully the silicone caulk will prevent this from leaking anymore, and they'll provide a nice solid fit. I just wanted you all to be aware that if your drain pipe is leaking, you do have a couple options to make sure that the water stops coming out, but at the same time, it's kind of a pain to troubleshoot. So I'm going to try the silicone caulk and we'll see how that goes. First, we're going to apply a bead of caulk to this top piece, so that way it seals here, the top part of the sink. And this will all squeeze out when you tighten it down, so you'll have to clean it back up before it dries. So then make sure, again, this piece where the pop-up valve goes is facing the back. It's going to be really important now that we're actually siliconing this in place. And of course you can still move it around if you get it in the wrong position, but ideally we should get it as best as we can at first. So let's just put that there right now. You can see it all squeeze out, and then the next part we're going to do is we're going to put a bead of silicone around this washer, which is the piece that goes up against the bottom of the sink basin. So I'm going to do that first. Okay, now I'll put this nut back on. Get this nice and tight. Make sure the drain is straight. Okay, and then we'll clean up the excess silicone caulk here. Pushing it with our finger. Okay, and then we'll do the same up top. Part here, just clean this all up here. Now that this is all cleaned up, before I do anything else to this drain, I'm going to let the silicone caulk cure a bit. It says it's water ready in 30 minutes. I'm probably going to let it set longer than that because I want to make sure that the steel doesn't break loose. So I'm just going to let it sit for a while, and I'm going to make the final connections and then test to make sure it's not leaking. I'm happy to report that the silicone worked. We have been running water through this drain and filled up the basin full of water and then let that drain and did a lot of testing, and there's been no water leaks whatsoever. So thankfully this drain is completely dry, and like I said, the silicone caulk did the job. If you're interested in any of the tools that we use to complete this project, we'll have links in the description below where you can go and check those things out, in addition to a link to the specific faucet that we picked up at Lowe's. All right, and that's all there is to installing a replacement faucet in a bathroom sink. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, be sure to stay tuned for future videos that we're going to have on this bathroom remodel. You're not going to want to miss those. Also, if you like this video, please be sure to leave us a like. And don't forget to subscribe to Top Homeowner if you haven't already, where our goal is to help you become the top homeowner in your neighborhood. Thanks again for watching.